Vet Files. Today, Gretel and I are joined by MJ, who is a current first year at LSU with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about remediating and options when things don't really quite go according to plan first year for whatever reason. We're going to talk about kind of the published resources for LSU and Mizzou specifically, but overall, we're going to talk about MJ's experience. Introduce yourself, MJ.
Okay. Hi, my name's MJ. I went to undergrad at LSU. This is Sharky. He's participating. I went to undergrad at LSU. I was in the pre-vet program, the 3+1. I got into vet school when I was 20, and it was pretty much like a straight A student my whole life, and then everything it felt like the world was ending. It gets better. But yeah, I'm interested in small animal practice, particularly feline medicine, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
So let's talk a little bit about remediating. What is it? Kind of how does it work? Because we were talking about it before the episode, but it's really confusing. There's not much out about it online if you're just researching it. As a student, I was trying to look up, our handbook, and it was a little bit unclear even then. So remediating is essentially the terminology used at least LSU for retaking whatever year of school you failed. And failed could mean you didn't pass clinical skills. Failed could mean you got a D plus at LSU is the lowest you can go. 1 D plus, not 2. And then also if you fall below a 2.0 GPA average, you are qualified for remediation. If you get an F, immediate dismissal and you have to reapply, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about remediating, which is kind of
Right.
in between having to reapply. So yeah, MJ, would you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
I remediated at LSU. It was an experience. I didn't pass clinical skills, the OSCE specifically, which for people who don't have it or call it the OSCE, it's a skills exam. I can't remember. I know it's like something skills clinical exam. That's what it stands for. And you basically get 5 minutes to perform a task in front of somebody who is grading you actively. It's very stressful. You kind of go in blind. You don't really get to know exactly what the stations are until you get there. And I was just going through, it's just some personal stuff, and like there's nothing to be ashamed of in that regard. Even if it was like a whoopsie, I didn't do really great on something, there's no shame in that either. But yeah, that's specifically what happened to me, was that I just had some stuff going on outside of school. It kind of distracted me from my schoolwork, so studying got away from me. I also got my first F on a test in anatomy, and so that was oh my god, I was clutching my pearls. But yeah, whenever I had to remediate the OSCE, I literally felt like the world was ending. I was like, it's not gonna go well, I don't belong here, I screwed up really bad, maybe I should just do something else. And I just kind of reflected on it, and they offered me remediation, and I was like, okay, I definitely want to do this. I want to do remediation. I studied for it. Probably could have studied a little bit better because I still had some stuff going on outside. So I was like, okay, well, at least I now know what's gonna happen going into it. And then I didn't pass the remediation either. So then I had to be readmitted with the next class of first year's remediation. For the OSCE specifically, is they will give you a whole new set of stations, and you basically just retake it. So it's just the one test over the summer. I'm not exactly sure how it works for the other classes. I'm pretty sure for anatomy, you would have to go in and take all of the lab portion again, and I think you probably retake some of the tests, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, thank you. It's just kind of hard to talk about because I also have heard people to my face say just crazy things. Once you're in vet school, people are like, oh, if you didn't have a 3.8 GPA in undergrad, you don't deserve to be here. Or if you can't pass this, you don't deserve to be here. And that's not what that is at all. I just don't believe in that entire rhetoric. We had Dr. Wade on a couple episodes ago, and she's awesome, and she's very public about it, but she had failed her NAVLE her first try, and she's an awesome doctor. And it's just something that I don't appreciate, all of the negative narrative. Things happen,
Yeah.
even if it was just genuine academic, oh, I didn't get it, or I needed to
Right.
retry. I failed OChem 2. I never passed OChem 2 because LSU didn't require it, and I'd already accepted my
Girl,
acceptance
I never
things.
even took OChem too.
Yeah, I don't think at LSU undergrad, I don't think y'all take OChem 2.
Not in the pre-vet program, no.
Okay, because at Auburn it was required to graduate, and I mean I had to have a D in it, so I had a D, and so it was fine. I got my credit, but most vet schools require it. LSU does not, and yeah, I failed it. I got a D, but I was taking it during a 19 credit hour semester, and I had my APMA national position. I was working two part-time jobs. Things happen. That doesn't make me less of anything, less of a vet, less of a person, less of a student. I'm still smart. I'm still going to be a great vet one day. Everybody has different paths. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, did you kind of face any of that?
I've been so all of undergrad they want to push that 3+1 program for LSU. 3+1, 3+1. You know, like when you're a pre-vet, you're automatically in the 3+1 program, and if you don't get into vet school, then you're moved to science and technology, which is still animal science and the same things. It's just a couple more production classes. So I got it. Like, I just want to set the stage for like I know people are going to relate to this because it's such a vet student thing. I grew up, I got straight A's, never made a B. I finished out undergrad, like when I got into vet school, I had a 4.3 GPA in undergrad. I was an ambassador for LSU, like for LSU. I was working on top of that, and like I was always in student government or some kind of like interactive position with like the student body, even in high school. And so I was always a very high achiever. Like being good at school was like my thing. You know, like I have a sister. She's the athletic one. I'm the smart one. You know, like that's just kind of how it always was. Yeah, like that's just how I was. Like I was just always really involved at school. So then I got into vet school with the 3+1 program. And I was supposed to graduate in May 2025. But because I didn't pass my OSCE, they said I didn't meet the requirements to get my degree. I had to watch all of my best friends graduate, like, because we all went to LSU together because we're all local and we all had, like, TOPS, which is a Louisiana thing. If y'all don't know what TOPS is, it's based on your grade point average. So when you graduate high school, if you have a 4.0 and you keep it up all throughout college, they will pay for you to go to school. Like me and all my friends basically went to school for free because we were all the nerdy honors kids in high school. So, but yeah, like me and all my friends graduated. We were supposed to all graduate at the same time. It was so exciting. I had family. I'm a first gen graduate as well, so I was like having family fly in to watch me graduate, and I didn't find out until like 2 days before that I wasn't gonna graduate, and I was so embarrassed. I actually photoshopped the COVID test to be positive because I was like, I just don't have the heart to tell anybody about the fact that I failed, and I was like, well, I'm gonna pass the remediation and nobody's gonna know because then I'll just graduate in August and no one's gonna know. Well, that didn't happen, and that's okay. But then now they're telling me once I was, readmitted after remediation that I won't get a bachelor's degree this upcoming May. So I'm not going to get a bachelor's degree unless I go back to like the main campus, which is frustrating, and it kind of puts more stakes on my back because I'm just like, okay, well, it's DVM or bust, I guess. Like, what else? I'm not going to have a degree, so I either got to get this one or, I'm going to get this degree. So that's kind of what happened, with the OSCE. I remember getting that email and I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was so heartbreaking to me to be like, okay, well, you have to do summer school. Oh my God, summer school? Like, as like an overachiever, like vet student, like, oh my God, I don't want to go to summer school. Like, what? And like you said, like you were working 2 jobs, I was working 3 jobs. Like, it was a lot. I was also moving, and I was just having the same personal issues that I was having right before the OSCE. So it's just, I didn't pass again. And also it was part of the fact that it was like, well, if I don't pass this, I'm not going to get a degree. Everyone's going to be disappointed in me. I'm going to be disappointed in myself. I'm not going to be able to move on with the next class. And I was so nervous that I started crying in the middle of the OSCE, and that cost me 2 stations. Because I couldn't calm myself down, and they wouldn't let me step aside to take a breath because it's a timed test. So I was like, okay, well, I didn't pass. I did the whole readmission application and wrote out, my whole situation. I even got like my mentor that I work with. She wrote me an awesome letter of recommendation. So yeah, it was kind of hard. And then, you're facing the whole thing of like, well, now I have to make all new friends, and now I have to go back to school, and all the professors are going to already know me, and everyone's going to know that I had to start over. All my second year friends are like, they get to move on and keep going, and I don't. And it's just like, everybody's going to know. It's just that feeling of like, everybody's going to know that I did something bad, which it's not bad to fail. It's okay to fail. Nobody fails on purpose, and nobody fails because they want to. And I really hate when, this is so cynical of me, but I hate everything happens for a reason. Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes life just doesn't make sense. But I do believe that, like, everybody's journey is different. I don't think that I was ready to move to the next class, but I think that I was meant to be in the class of 2029. I really mesh with everybody better. I feel more confident in myself. I feel more confident in my abilities. And that's one thing that's, I think, the hardest part of like failing and having to start over is the confidence. Getting your confidence back. Feeling good about yourself again, feeling like you belong there. Feeling like you belong there just as much as everybody else. Because after I found out that I had to go in and do my first year again, my confidence was so bad that I couldn't even like pull blood on animals anymore. And like, I do that every day. I do that all the time. That's something that usually comes very easy to me. And it's just like, my confidence was so low that I was like, I can't do it. Like, I need someone else to do it. I can't do it. But my advice to people who feel that way would be, just jump back in. Just jump back in. Even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't feel confident, even if you don't feel like you can do it, just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. And there's like this quote, I can't remember what it is exactly, but it's like, do it scared, do it unsure, do it insecure, do it when it's hard. Just do it. Because I would have regretted it for the rest of my life if I was like, oh, well, I didn't pass remediation, time to do something else. This is something that I've wanted for a really long time, and I feel like that's the case with a lot of people who are in vet school, is like, and they even put it, I don't know if it's on the other applications, but even it's on the LSU application, and it says, what made you want to be a vet? Do not include childhood stories, because everybody and their grandma says, oh, I've always wanted to be a vet ever since I was little. So I think that's something that everyone can relate to, is like, you want this for so long, and you have this love of animals and you want it for so long, or even you have this love of helping people. I think that that's not something to turn away from if you get discouraged. I think that that's a really rare thing to be very passionate about. And, it feels like, oh, well, there's so many people who are trying to get into vet school. Like, somebody will take my place. But you matter. Like, individually, you matter. And I'm also the president of the Voice Club at LSU, which is Veterinarians for One Inclusive Community for Empowerment. And that's kind of like the whole deal, is like, you matter in particular. Like, your experience changes how you practice. Your experience changes how you interact with people. And I think everyone's viewpoint is valuable, even if I disagree with it. So you matter. Like, you bring something to the table. You can bring something to veterinary medicine, even if you feel like, oh, I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. You bring something to the table, no matter if you know what it is or not.
Yeah, and I was always shocked at kind of how many people chose to remediate, and Gretel will go into her experience at Mizzou and kind of people that she knows just a little bit. I had mentioned before, like, I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was 6 people didn't make it, like 10, 9,
No,
8?
8.
8. I can't count. Okay.
Rip.
But yeah, 8 people, I believe, is the number. I don't want to say dropped out or failed, like, because it sounds so negative, but for whatever reason, they did not continue to the next semester, and they are, for the most part, the people that I know are remediating. And I was always shocked, because I was like, what would I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, because you're right, all those emotions are so valid, and it's really important to talk about, because I don't want to say it's getting more common, but I think as class sizes increase and blah, 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 a million reasons, I've looked at kind of the dropout and graduation rates for a couple different schools when I was applying, because I was like, well, if everybody's graduating, I'll do fine. Like, right? Like, surely. And nobody is at 100%. nobody has a 100% graduation or pass, and that can be a couple of different things. Some of them count the remediation students in that graduation pass rate, some don't, whatever. Point is, you're not the only person, and I think Gretel can talk more about that. I think it was even more prevalent at Mizzou this past year.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was a shell shock for my class as well. We had more than normal either D out, or they had to have like another option of like prolonging their time at school. So at Mizzou, you can only have 9 credits of D's. So that's really like your first 2 anatomy and physiology classes. And I don't think they purposely do it this way, but that's like the same amount of credit hours for your 2 hardest classes in your first 2 IPs. Let's see, there are 9 credits of D, and then if you D out, you have to reapply. And this did happen to several of my friends. I should say almost a quarter of the class was facing whether they might D out in the first couple months, which is pretty shocking, as like you were talking about MJ, majority of people in veterinary school have gotten good grades their whole life. You know, maybe they have 1 or 2 C's, if that, in their whole entire span of being a student, and normally that's in like the hardest possible classes like chemistry or biochem. But most of the time, I don't think people understand like what a beast veterinary school is. And for one of my friends who D'd out, she actually just came back into town and we were talking about it. She's had a really bad living situation starting veterinary school, and she couldn't feel comfortable at home. And she always told me that this was a conversation between the two of us, and I said, you know what, they gave us a presentation at the start of school and calculated how many hours it would be needed to study and survive, and they deemed it impossible. And this was in the first couple days. And after hearing that, I was like, this is already impossible. Can you imagine having problems going on at home? Like, I was freaking out. Luckily, you know, I wasn't at risk of decelling, but I didn't have some high grades the whole time. Like, we were all freaked out. We had all failed an exam at some point. Like, everyone in veterinary school has failed an exam. I can guarantee at some point they have failed an exam, or multiple. I think people just don't understand. This is so much harder. The stakes are so much higher. All of your classes feel like the hardest class you ever took in undergrad. So think of quadrupling your workload. And then you have to figure it out all in the first few months. Like, how unrealistic is that? For PhDs, they can expand their timeline, but we can't. We're expected to be able to handle all of it at once. And I think that's a problem. I don't know why it has to be so cutthroat. Other programs aren't in the country for graduate schools.
Yeah, and another thing too that I really struggled with when I first got into vet school, and I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, is that school comes so easy when you are like, you know, typically if you are on the right track, you know, if you're a typical good student and you make A's and you really don't struggle in undergrad. It's really hard to come from that, oh, I can study the night before, I can study 2 nights before, and then go into vet school where you can't do that. And I've been through first year twice now, and I'm still trying to get out of that habit where I'm like, I can study the night before, it's fine. Don't do that, it's not fine. The only reason I can get by with doing that is because I've seen all the material before. That's pretty much the only reason. Yeah, that's just kind of something that a lot of people don't factor in, is like, you're going to be doing a lot more studying, and even when you feel like, okay, this material is really easy, there's a lot of it. And even when it's easy, it's hard. Because there's just so much material, and especially if you didn't take any specialized classes that are geared toward medicine, or even some people, like I know some people in our class and the class above us who have no clinical experience. None. They only did like, you know, research, or they were super involved in like other clubs and stuff, so they don't have the medical knowledge that some other people have. I was fortunate enough to have both, and I also did like AP biology in high school where we learned a lot about like the histology and stuff, so that the first couple of months I was able to be like, okay, like I'm okay, like I've done all this before. And I took an anatomy class. They offered like a pre-vet anatomy by Dr. Ritchie in undergrad at LSU, so I was coming off of that, and I was like, you know, like it won't be that bad, like it'll probably be the exact same. No, it's not. It helps, for sure, but it definitely isn't the exact same. It's much harder. Everything is a lot more complicated. Vet school really showed me, I'm like, oh, well, like a bone's a bone, right? Like they don't, nothing happens to a bone. Bones are alive. Like bones are alive. There's just so much stuff going on in the body that you don't even know about. And then on top of that, you have to know about it in so many different species. So it's a beast. And I think that that's something that people will underestimate, is that they think them being a good student will outweigh how much of a beast vet school is, and it doesn't. It really doesn't.
No, and it doesn't matter. Like some people, including me, are like, "Oh, should I study before I get there? What should I look at?" Nothing. It doesn't help. Hey, it doesn't matter. Like, hey, sorry to tell you, buddy, but like it really doesn't matter. I mean, maybe if you're particularly dedicated, it's just hard without like to self-teach yourself anything in vet school. There's a reason they don't have online vet school unless it's in Australia. Like, I don't know how they do it in Australia. I don't know how that program works, so I'm not going to hate on them. But my point is, it's hard to do it without an instructor saying, here's the important things, here's how to filter it out, here's how to apply this clinically. It's just bizarre. And so I'll say, same thing. I thought, oh, I'll be okay because I did undergrad anatomy 1 and 2 for humans. So not the same thing. That was just what Auburn offered. It was required to graduate. We all took it. And I live with another Auburn student. She felt the same way. We were like, yeah, what the heck? Like, this is not the same thing. And I was even a TA for anatomy 1 lab. And so I was like on top of it. Like, I knew my human bones and muscles, every single one, all the origin, action, insertion, everything you could know about it. I was teaching it because we don't have a professor for lab. It's the TAs teaching it. So I was good there. I was like, surely it can't be that much different. And I'll tell you, that's true. Most of it is pretty similar, and I was exposed to most of it. A couple differences here and there. But yeah, after maybe a month, we got through the entire musculoskeletal system, I think. And I was just like, yeah, okay, well, that was the extent of my knowledge. I don't know what we're doing now. And it comes back, at LSU and a couple other schools, they do the spiral curriculum. So in the fall, you'll learn it on the dog. And then in the spring, they'll redo all of it. But you're expected to know the previous semester of dog and apply it and find the comparative differences on the horse and cow and small ruminant and some avian stuff. So my point was, yes, if you took undergrad anatomy, it'll help a little bit with the thinking process, but once you get past like month 1, I don't even think it really helps that much. At least the anatomy classes that I took. Gretel, thoughts?
My anatomy did not help me at all. We didn't have any labs. If anything, the repro labs with the tracks helped, but I was an animal sciences student. We didn't have any requirement to take human anatomy. So our extent ended at a PowerPoint with maybe just the skeleton and some of the major muscles and some origin insertions and actions. And, University of Illinois is a very hard school. Nothing could prepare me for it. And I got like a 96 in anatomy in undergrad. By no means was I anywhere near that. Absolutely not. I scraped by with a C in anatomy, and that was my worst class. Oh my God. I prayed for a C. Like, it was that bad. Adjusting. I'm doing better now. But I want people to know, like, it takes 6 months minimum to figure out what you're doing, unless you're a genius. But even the brilliant people, I've been good at school my whole life. Even if you're a genius, this is hard, and I'm not. So it's especially hard.
Yeah, I don't know, but we got a little off topic. Let's talk about, MJ, what did you do during your gap period? Not gap year, but your gap period, between the 2 years. I know that you had to face remediation and look at that during the summer, so you might not have been thinking about it in the scope of, oh, I need to repeat the year, what can I do? But, what did you change? Did you work? Did you rest? Did you study? Did you intentionally make changes to your study technique, time management, mental health? Just tell us about what you did in that period.
All of the above. I definitely started, I had the whole self-pity period where, I was in bed for a couple days and I was like, I just need to be sad about this, but then I need to be sad about it and then I need to move past it because it's happened and there's nothing I can do to change the fact that it happened. And that's something that my partner actually tells me all the time. I'm such a worrywart. I'm such a, well, what if this? Well, what if that? Well, what if this? What if that? And he's like, but that's not what happened though. That's not what happened. You have to live in reality. You can't live in the, well, what if this had happened and I had done this, that, and the other? And that was something that I got really focused on, because I was like, well, if I had done this on the OSCE, I would have passed. Well, if I had done this on the OSCE, I would have passed. Because I'm not going to lie, there was a couple stations where I was like, hey, I don't agree with this. They don't care. They do not care. Unless you can, like, solidly prove that you know, like, what your disagreement is valid. Because it happened to somebody that I know. She did remediation with me, and somebody had messed up her grade, and she went and she was like, hey, I don't agree with this, like, this, you know, this was graded incorrectly, and they went back and reviewed it, and it actually was. But, you know, just stuff like that, where, because you also have to think about the person who's grading you, it's all up to their interpretation, and if you said something and they didn't hear it, they're gonna mark it wrong. But if you're like, hey, I said that because this is what happened to me. Well, we were outside, we were in a barn, the fans were going, people were talking, there was animals making noise, the timer is talking and saying, you know, you may start your scenario now, all that stuff. So she didn't hear me say it. And I went and I was like, on my mother, I said it, I promise. And they were like, look, we can't do anything about it. Like, it's your word against the teacher, or against the grader, and we always take the grader because obviously the student is going to try and want to bump their grade up. And they failed me by 0.03%. So that was really frustrating. It was really frustrating. So that I was really stuck, and being so close, I literally was like, well, what if this and what if that? And I was just trying to like I remember sending an email to our, like, the facilitator for the class, and just, I think I said please like 6 times, because I was like, please, 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 like, we need to have a meeting, like, something's wrong, like, I didn't, like, this isn't me, like, please, like, we need to meet up, like I was just really deep in denial. And then I went over everything and I was like, okay, all right, this was me, I messed up, but it's gonna be okay. Eventually I got to the it's gonna be okay stage. It took me a couple weeks to get there, but I got there. But yeah, what I really started with, honestly, was therapy. And I know that's, like, not an option for a lot of people. I was able to get to it because my job offers it. So yeah, I knew I needed to work on my confidence. I knew I needed to kind of get out of this, like, oh, poor me, oh, everything's going wrong. And it's so corny. I keep bringing up all these corny phrases, but when people say focus on the positive, sometimes you just got to. Yes, there are points where it's like focusing on the positive is a little, okay, you're kind of living in a fantasy land. You know, like if you're $5,000 in credit card debt, well, it's like, well, at least I'm not $6,000 in credit card debt. Maybe not in that situation, but in a situation where it's like, okay, I got readmitted, I got a second chance. Does it suck that I'm going to have to make all new friends and that pretty much everybody's going to know that I had to restart? Yeah, that sucks. But guess what? Positive side, maybe I'll meet some really cool people. My grades will definitely be better because I've seen the material before, so if it's not better than that.
Quick question. I never even thought about this until just now. When you retake all of these, 2 questions. So you said, did you say you have to retake every single class regardless? Because that's what I had assumed. You have to take all of them? Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, so I have to take every class, but it's basically just like going back into my first year, just like everybody else. Plus sides of that is that a lot of it's the same, and I really don't have to take as many notes, but like I said, always look on the positive. Yeah, I just, I did have to take every class. I kind of talked to them about it because I was given the impression that I wouldn't have to retake every class. They made me take every class.
I wonder, maybe other than just refreshing your memory, I wonder what the reason is. Because if you only failed 1...
They told me it was because second year at LSU is so anatomy based and it's so physiology based that they didn't want that information to fall out of my head, basically. They were like, there's more of a benefit to you retaking it than not retaking it, because then it'll still be fresh in your mind and all that stuff. And honestly, I do think it was beneficial. I'm not saying that everybody needs to take anatomy twice, but like I said before, I don't think I was ready at the time, because I was like, I'm a good student, like, I can do this, like, it's not even that big of a deal. And I think, me personally, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but I think that reality needed to hit where it's like, okay, like, this is big girl, this is big boy time, this is big they them time, you know, like, you gotta pull your britches up, and all those southern sayings that they say, bootstraps and all that. And I think it was beneficial for me, especially just like paying attention, and I'm like, okay, now I can apply this. Now that I'm focused on knowing the information and learning in the information and not just studying to take the test and then it falls out of my brain. Because that's kind of what I always was used to doing, was like studying for the test and then it falls out of my brain. And I think that's also another reason why I struggled my first year, was because I wasn't studying for like long-term memory, if that makes sense. But yeah. They did make me retake all the classes.
It makes more sense. I kind of figured that they would do that, but
Yeah.
I think somebody had mentioned you didn't. I don't remember. Anyway, my second question was, when you retake all these classes, does it just get substituted for your GPA? Does it average? How
It
does
gets substituted. I'm pretty sure it gets substituted. I could be wrong. I probably should have looked at that before I came on here. But
I didn't even think about it. So
because I was like, well, if all of that goes away and I'm retaking all the same classes, can I get my bachelor's degree? And they were like, no. And I was like, but it's all the same. And they were like, yeah, sorry. It's got to do with like the 3+1 timeline. I was specifically told it's 3+1, not 3+2.
I'm
But
sorry. That's a bummer.
nah, it's okay.
Back to classes.
TVM or bust, baby.
That's the DVM it is.
I always think about, I know there's somebody in our class who got in it. I don't know what his birthday is, but he's 19 now, so I don't know if he got in at 18 or whatever. And I'm just like, good Lord, like some people, I never even considered the fact that you don't have to, I didn't know this was a thing, because apparently PSA, Auburn has this too, and they don't tell us at all. I had no idea until I graduated that you can do up until your junior year, just get your prereqs, and then if you get into Auburn, they will award you your bachelor's degree. It's not really a 3+1, it's more just like they'll give it to you at the same time, I believe. But I had no idea. Like, nobody told me
Yeah.
that. I was like, that's so unfair. I graduated in 3 years anyway. What? I mean, I wouldn't have gotten into Auburn, but hey.
And at LSU, the LSU vet school I know specifically is like, you really only have to do the prereqs. Like, I mean, yes, you should get your bachelor's degree if you, as a fallback, no matter what. That's why I keep telling all my people that I know are in 3+1. I'm like, maybe get out of that. Just to be safe. It doesn't hurt. I mean, especially if you're already a good student and you're going to school for free, why not? But, because the reason I was in 3+1 was because, I get TOPS for 4 years. If I get into vet school that first time, I'm going to have half my tuition covered. Well, then that didn't matter in the end, because then I had to pay for tuition all over again. So the only benefit of that was, well, at least I didn't have to pay for a whole year. I really paid for like half an extra year, so a semester. But yeah, LSU does it where it's like you can apply to the vet school with only prereqs, because one of the doctors I work with actually did that, and he only had the prereqs, and he went to undergrad for 2 years and then he got into vet school. I think he graduated in 2005. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could you talk about the thought process in your head? Because I think people think a lot about, oh, my tuition will be more. But I do believe, like, it cancels out in time. It might seem like a lot of money right now. And obviously, like, yeah, if you don't make your payments on time, if you don't strategize well, it could turn into a lot more money. But at the same time, it's like a chunk of money now, but it's still an investment in yourself. I don't know how you view taking on more money, more loans.
I may not be the best person to ask that, because I'm very much of the mindset where it's like, money's money, you can't take it with you when you die. That's how I am. That's how I've always been. I always get told, they're like, oh my gosh, like, you spend money on all this crazy. I literally have a lightsaber signed by Hayden Christensen, who plays Anakin Skywalker in the first 3 episodes of Star Wars. I'm very much of the mindset where money's money and you can't take it with you when you die. And I definitely was like, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised to be like, save your money, be frugal, have something to leave your kids when you die. Yes, it's going to be 4 years of debt and it's going to suck. And I especially feel bad for the people who are coming into this upcoming class in, assuming there's international listeners on the podcast. But
Yeah,
people in
We
America.
have 5 countries that listen to us. Isn't that fun?
Facts, period. So yeah, people in the US, we're on a student loan cap now. So I feel bad for the people who are having to go through that, because you can only take out so much money, and like, especially like out of state students are really going to struggle with that. So I personally feel like, 4 years of debt, it sucks. It's a lot of debt to pay off, but I also think that it's doable. And I think, especially once you graduate and you get in your niche and you practice what you love, I feel like doing what you love matters more than money. And maybe that's, an unrealistic way to look at things in this day and age, but that's just kind of how I personally feel about it. Yes, it does suck that I had to pay for an extra year of tuition, but I look at it as like, okay, I would pay, like if they were like, oh, okay, well, you'll pass the OSCE if you pay us a whole nother year of tuition again. I would do it right now. They're like $14,000 and you pass your OSCE. Okay, who do I send it to? You got Venmo? Like, who do I send it to right now? But like you said, it's like a good investment in yourself. And, if you... And also, you can also use that financial stress to kind of light a fire under your butt, because it's like, okay, well, let me do this in 4 years. Let me graduate. Let me do well so I can do well for myself and then pay back these loans, and then I'm chilling.
Yeah, I mean, loans, anybody who takes out loans, it's going to hit you at some point or the other. How you handle it is up to you. Some people have the mindset of, kind of like you, like, hey, I'm going to do it anyway. Like, everybody in this profession, I might be generalizing here, but everybody that I've spoken to would pay whatever they needed to pay to get this degree. And that's crazy to me, because you're talking about people graduating their vet school, like in the traditional 4-year undergrad, 4-year vet school, especially if you went out of state for both. I mean, you're getting up to $400,000, $500,000 in loans. And that's just so unrealistic sometimes. And so for reference, my out-of-state tuition at LSU is, I believe, $62,000 or $63,000 a year. And the federal loan cap, which, if you're curious, we have a whole episode on the One Big Bill and how it affects vet student loans specifically with Dr. Rebecca Mears from Ben. That's on the page if you're curious for more information. But anyway, basically they're capping what you can take out, and I think it was set at $55,000 a year. Where am I going to come up with this extra $10,000? Private loans, da-da-da, and again, that's all in the other episode, why it's bad and whatever. But point is, people are taking on such a financial load no matter where they go, especially out of state. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine telling myself, hey, another year of tuition. But it is nice that TOPS maybe covered a little bit of that and that you're in state, because that's a whole different ball game. I mean, double it, literally double it. It's double the tuition anywhere out of state. And so, yeah, more props to you. But I guess I want to talk a little bit about, I don't know if this necessarily applies to you as much as it does somebody who maybe failed or got a D+ in one of their first semester classes, but are there any early warning signs or when to ask for help? Do you have any advice on that?
So I feel like, and I've been lucky enough where I've had, a good support system. I have really good friends who support me and, always are there for me. And of course my partner is always there for me, and he puts up with my BS all the time. And he's so great for it. And I also got I'm gonna brag just a little bit. I got super lucky because when I started vet school, we started dating the month before I started vet school. And we had met on Tinder, so we did not know each other. And I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm going into vet school and it's going to be a lot. And I probably won't have as much time to, be super active and go on dates and do all that stuff. Like, I have to study. I have to be home and study. And he was like, okay, well, I'll sit next to you, And it was just, so I think that's something that's really important when you go into vet school is, know who your people are. And you'll find out. Trust. You will find out, because I had lost friends because they're like, well, you're not emotionally available. Girl, I'm trying to keep my head above water. I got enough going on, and it's I'm sorry that, and obviously if there's something big that happened, support your friends. Don't neglect your friends. But, you have to put yourself first. And that's something that I had to learn was I need to put myself first. I'm very much the type of person where I'm like, if they're like, we need someone to stay after work, and everybody kind of looks at each other, and I'm like, don't worry, guys, I'll do it. I'm just that kind of person where I feel bad. But I think, first of all, put yourself first. Do daily, if that's too much, weekly check-ins with yourself. How am I feeling? What do I need? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? Shameless plug, Finch is this little app where you take care of a bird, and it literally helps me get done with all my tasks every day. I am neurodivergent, and it's really hard for me to remember to do everything, or even I'm like, man, I don't want to like, the last thing I want to do right now is shower. I'm so tired and I need to go to bed because I've been studying for the last 6 hours. But my little bird is like, but if you shower, you'll feel so much better. And then I'm like, you're so right. But anyway, so that's what I would recommend, you know, like, however you need to check in with yourself, however you need to, like, get your emotional burdens off, whether that's going to therapy, whether that's talking to someone who is available to listen. Journaling's a really good one. Journaling's really good. I love to journal. Or just sitting in silence for like 5 minutes. It's crazy. But I would say warning signs, getting back to your original question, warning signs that, like, you're not doing well is that you're not doing well. If you're not doing well mentally, personally, physically, you're not going to do well academically. People are like, I pulled an all-nighter for this test. I'm judging you because you're not taking care of yourself. That's not a flex. Like, I feel bad for you. I'm not like, wow, great job. I'm like, no, you should get some sleep. You should get some sleep. You should eat at least 2 meals a day. Like, if you were, at least, like, if you're getting to the point where it's like, man, like, all I'm eating is junk food, or, like, all I'm doing is, like, picking on stuff from the vending machine, that's a sign you're probably not doing well. If you're not interested in your hobbies or your outside relationships anymore, that's a sign you're probably not doing well. As far as school goes, signs that you're not doing well, like, with school, and you need to reach out and ask for help academically would be, like, I would say if there's portions on the test when you're, like, genuinely, when did we talk about that? Or, like, if you hear your fellow classmates talking about something and you're like, hey, when did that happen? I was in class that day. Why do I not know what you're talking about? And that happens to me still. Because I'm friends with some people who were, like, really high in the ranks of class, and they're like, oh, did you know this, that, and the other? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I really didn't. And it's okay not to know. Like, it's not the end of the world. If someone else knows and you don't, just be like, hey, can you tell me that? And that's something that I think is really good with our class, is that we help each other a lot. And that was something that I didn't really have in my previous class, was that everybody was kind of like, well, I want to be the best, and I'm not going to help you because I don't want you to be better than me. But yes, like, or if you just feel behind all the time and you just feel like you can never catch up, and you never have a day where you're like, I don't have anything to do today, you know? And those, like, that means if you feel like you're always just barely keeping your head above water, you're always going home and you're having to play catch up, or you're always going home and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff to do, like, I feel so overwhelmed, I would say that's, like, a sign that you probably should reach out and be like, hey, I need some help managing my time better, so that way I can have more time for school but less time for school, if that makes sense. So, like, if you manage your time better, you feel like you're doing school less, but you're really doing it more, but it doesn't feel like more. I would also say, like, make time for your hobbies and doing things that you care about, even if that's, like, playing video games or something that you feel is stupid. I crochet all the time. That was a hobby that I picked up. But Kaylin knows I'd be in class crocheting. Like, it helps me focus. But yeah, I would say, like, I feel like generally people know when they're not doing okay. And the main thing is being embarrassed to ask for help. And I know a lot of schools will have an academic advisor. I know LSU has one. That's a completely confidential conversation. They're not going to tell anyone you met up with them. And no one else is going to know why you met up with them. Just lie. Like, if you really feel like you need to lie, just lie. Be like, if someone's like, oh, why'd you have that meeting with that person? Oh, you know, it was just, like, club stuff. I don't know, just make something up. I think, but truly, you don't need to be embarrassed to ask for help, because I think asking for help when you need it is actually a sign that you're smarter. Because that was something I also had to learn. It's like, I don't know how to do everything, and I need to not act like, or like the way I do things may not necessarily be the correct way to do things. So I think it's important to have something other than school. If your life is just school, school, school all the damn time, it's too much. It's too much. And that's when you get overwhelmed, and that's when you feel like your world is small, and that's when you feel like there's nothing, you have nothing outside of that school. I was feeling that way for a long time, and then I was like, and then I finally found something that I was really interested in and passionate about, and that's, like, sewing and crocheting and making things. And I think, I mean, and not everyone's a creative person, but I also feel like making things is such a catharsis that releases a lot, and it's also a good way to, like, reflect on how you're feeling as well.
I think there's this assumption, I had a couple friends, including myself, like, fall for it, that thinking more time in the books and more time studying will make you perform better? Yes, to a degree. I'm going to say you need to put in the amount of effort and the amount of time needed to learn the material. But you need to space it out and you need to take breaks. And staring at it for a million hours, your brain cannot do that. Do so much better after I take breaks, because you don't put your whole life onto an exam. And when you start doing that, that's when it's dangerous for your brain. That's when it's dangerous for your mental health. When you put all your self-worth into school. When you, like you said, when you stop seeing family members. When you stop enjoying your normal activities. When you don't do your normal activities. Like, maybe if you go to the gym for 3 hours a day in undergrad, I don't think you could afford to do that in veterinary school. But could you go 3 times a week for 3 hours? Or could you go for an hour a day in the morning before classes? Yes. Do I do that? Absolutely not. Things like that. Have you, pet your cat? Have you actually played with your cat? Not just them being in the background, like Milo's right here with me. Have you brushed your horses? Have you picked their hooves? Have you taken care of them and yourself?
Yeah, one thing, I had a friend tell me, I don't know where she came up with it, but it was genius when she said it. So her and I are both the kind of people where with books or with certain hobbies, arts and crafts sometimes, not all the time, we are both very into all of these things, but there's a finish line. And it was always like, oh, well, I just want to get this done. Like, I'm having fun, but I want to finish it. So I'm going to put aside everything else so I can finish this project I'm working on, this book I'm reading, whatever it might be. MJ's guilty. I knew it. But there's nothing wrong with that. But she had this brilliant realization, and she was like, so instead of doing those things, I still do those things for fun, but she's also a busy person, and she chose a hobby that it had no finish line. So she chose to rent out a keyboard, because when she was young, she used to do piano lessons, and there is no end. You can always get better. So I thought that was really cool, and there's no feeling of, oh, just this chapter, just this, that. You're just practicing. It's endless. It's literally endless. I grew up in band. It is endless. And you can finish a song. You can finish practicing a song, but you'll never be perfection at it. You'll always have tomorrow. The next day. It takes years. And so I thought that was a good idea. Another good idea that I do personally is every single night I take a bath. And every night in the bath, I read a book. So that was how I got ahead of the whole, oh, I have to finish it, or, oh, I want to finish, I'm enjoying it, so I want to finish it, and I'm going to put everything else aside and finish it. But that way it gives me the time to sit down, relax, take my bath, read my book, which is something I want to do. I'm not forcing myself to do it. But whenever I get to a chapter, I close it and I get out of the bath. I can't sit in the bath forever. I'll sit there for a long time. But point is, and I don't pick it up outside of the bathroom. It stays in there. And that's my fun, relaxed time. And then when I get out of the bathtub, back to work. That's one way that I've found.
Yeah, and I found I hacked my own system, because I sew, and I also cosplay and stuff. So I'm so much of a victim of I need to finish this tonight. Because it's I know I can do it, but it's should you do it? And when I picked up crocheting, I found out, I was you can only crochet for so long at one point in time, because then your wrist starts to hurt. And then you need to take a break, because if you start to hurt and you keep going, you can literally get carpal tunnel. So I'm if I'm crocheting and I'm okay, this is kind of starting to get uncomfortable, my fingers are kind of getting sore, I need to stop and do something else for a little bit while, and then I can come back. And it's also beneficial because it's one of those hobbies where you can do it while you are doing something else. So it's you can watch lectures while you do it, but I can't do it while I study. It's too distracting. So it's okay, Pomodoro timers have saved my life. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. I get to study for 25 minutes. 5 minutes I get to crochet. And I just put my ball of yarn right next to me, and I'm okay, 5 minutes I crochet, and then I go right back to studying. And it kind of gets out that need. Because I always feel 5 minutes, that's not a break at all. Because I'm always scrolling on my phone. It's always that damn phone. But whenever you find something in between that's not scrolling on your phone, to have breaks and stuff, they seem to last a little bit longer.
I found myself when I'm really stressed, we'll end up here soon, with some final words, but I find myself when I'm stressed and I'm studying at the school, because that's just my preferred place to study, I will go during my breaks pace. And one time I walked like 5 miles pacing in that little like orthopedic hallway, this short hallway. I was doing circles, just circles and circles and circles, but I was having fun. I was having the time of my life. I was like, woo! And then I sprained my ankle. Because I was going so fast and I was like, I'm in such a grind. I literally sprained my ankle. I was like, all right, gotta chill out. Back to studying. But it's funny. I wish I had Strava and it would just show me going like this around the vet school. But, all right, let's talk about, or Gretel, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before we kind of close up?
No, I love that. I absolutely do. Picking up habits that bring you peace. Very important.
Right. I had a couple notes. We've already addressed them, but kind of to give a synopsis. I hope we addressed a little bit of the stigma around failing and remediating. Again, it is not just MJ who did this. It is not just you, the listener, who's at risk for this. It is every single one of us. Everybody's at risk for it. It can happen to anybody. It does happen to more than one person a year at, I don't want to say all schools, but at least Gretel and I's universities. Like, it happens, it really does, and it is not talked about. I didn't even think about failing or failing a class or failing out before I got into vet school. And then once I got in and I was faced with like, oh, I'm on that cusp of D plus C minus. And then I was looking at our handbook and I was like, wait, there's actually not a lot of information on this. Like, maybe we should talk about it. So when MJ proposed, they said, let's talk about it. And I said, come on, like, let's talk about it to the extent that we can. It's not that it's undercover, it's just very case dependent, I feel. But there is always a second chance. It's just a matter of how you do it. And also, normalizing setbacks in rigorous programs in general. This applies not only to vet school, even for undergrad. Things happen. You might have to take a class again. You might have to take a semester again, whatever it might be. I like this one, but reframing failure as data, not identity. Like, that's just like one little data point in your huge data chart. You know what I mean? Like, if you're progressing and you're still at a upward trend and it's just this one little dot down there, why are you letting that kind of take over everything and what you're thinking? I know I've fallen victim to it in other aspects of my life, but applies here too. So MJ, if you could tell yourself, your past self, one thing, what would it be?
Have compassion for yourself. Be kind. There's nothing wrong with having a setback. There's nothing wrong with having a road bump. What matters is picking yourself back up and not letting that define you. There is a quote from Latrice Royale from season 4 of Drag Race that I think about all the time. And it's not word for word, but it's, you're gonna fall. But when you fall, you get up, you look sickening, and you make them eat it. And you prove them wrong. And that's what I do. And I'm like, who am I proving wrong? I don't know. Them. I'm proving them wrong. And I'm like, yeah, stick it to the man. I'm like, I have no haters, but I'm like, stick it to the man anyway. You know what I mean? It's just like, the way I handle it is come up with an imaginary enemy. And that's what I'll say to myself and what I would say to people. And as a closing word, because I've yapped so much and I've derailed this entire podcast. But what I will say is, if you're like, oh, well, this doesn't apply to me, I'm a good student, I do well in vet school, what I will say to you, dear listener, have compassion for people who are maybe not doing as well. I've had people make comments to me that they're hurtful. Like, even if it comes off, oh, it's a joke, like, I'm not trying to be hurtful, like, have some compassion. Don't talk about, imagine how you would feel if you failed out of vet school. Like, that's a pretty low point for anyone. And I think, be sensitive about it. Some people may treat it as like, whatever, like, I don't really care. We move on, life moves on. But there's some people who get really broken up about that stuff, or it's a very sensitive topic to be discussed in certain situations. So I just think, if you are thinking, okay, well, this doesn't apply to me, like, whatever, just be compassionate. That's it.
Thank you so much for joining us, MJ. I want to thank you for, first of all, being so open and vulnerable about it. I think it's going to help so many people. And I know people think they'll never be in this place, but literally this happened to my friend as well, where she was 1.5 points away and we can't say it's on the professor to move anything. I want people to know a lot of the times it's this close. And for whatever reason it happens, you come back and guess what? They make the best veterinarians in the world because they want to be there more than anyone else.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't want to wish it on anybody, but I do believe failure in any sense, or hard things, adversity, makes everybody stronger. That's not a new concept to anybody, hopefully. And just stop. My last message, it's not even about remediation. It's stop telling people that, like, they don't deserve to be here, because I have been told to my face more than once, if you didn't do XYZ, you don't deserve to be here, when that statement applied to me. And it's like, you don't even know me. You didn't even know that that statement applied to me, whether it was GPA or clinics or whatever it might have been. And you have the audacity to sit here and tell me, a stranger, to my face, we're in the same class, we are sitting shoulder to shoulder, taking the same classes, passing the same classes, getting through this together, working as a team. We might be in the same PBL group, we might do a group project, we might be in clinics together on the same rotation in a couple years. And you were sitting here telling me I don't deserve to be here. And you know nothing about me, you didn't know that statement applied to me, but just the thought that you would say that is crazy. And I see it happen all the time. So just chill with that. In vet school, out of vet school, that needs to stop. But being so negative, especially to somebody who you don't know, or to people you do know. I don't want to generalize. But anyway, yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Tune in to the next episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, all of the things. And thank you again, MJ, for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thanks, MJ.